Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen and enjoy my stories every day. The gravel crunched beneath my tires as I navigated the winding road leading to the ranch. A surprise visit to see Kelly, my wife, on a bright Saturday afternoon seemed like a perfect plan to break the monotony of recent weeks. She had been spending more time at the ranch, tending to her beloved horses and, as she often claimed, refining her riding skills with the help of an acclaimed instructor. Her passion for horseback riding was something I admired, yet seldom shared. As I parked my car, the distant clatter of hooves and the crisp country air filled me with a peaceful anticipation. I grabbed the bouquet of wildflowers I'd picked up along the way, envisioning Kelly's delight. It had been a while since we'd shared such spontaneous moments. The stables were quiet as I approached, the usual bustle of riders and groomers notably absent. I guessed a private lesson might be underway, so I treaded lightly, not wanting to interrupt. The sound of voices directed me to the last stall, the heavy wooden door slightly ajar. I smiled, ready to call out her name, when a laughter that wasn't hers halted me mid-step. Curious, I peered through the gap. The sight that greeted me was like a physical blow, draining the warmth from the sunny day. There, amidst the hay and the scent of horse, was Kelly. But she was not alone, nor was she riding. Clad only from the waist up, she was entwined with her riding teacher, a man whose hands were as familiar with her curves as they were with the reins. The bouquet slipped from my numb fingers, petals scattering like my shattered expectations. They hadn't seen me, too lost in their betrayal. I stood frozen, the images before my eyes burning into memory, branding my heart with a ferocious ache. The rage and hurt swirled into a tempest, fueling a cold resolve. I backed away, the clatter of the dropped flowers unnoticed by the pair. As I retreated to my car, the plan began to form. This betrayal would not go unanswered. Kelly's world, much like mine at that moment, would come crashing down. Driving away, the ranch growing smaller in my rearview mirror, I wasn't just leaving Kelly behind, I was leaving the man who believed in blind trust and unspoken vows. What lay ahead was unclear, but one thing was certain, Kelly and I were over, and retribution would be my new companion. This day marked the beginning of a new chapter, one where I would confront the deceit and ensure that the life Kelly knew with me was irrevocably broken. We would divorce, and she would understand the full consequence of her actions. As for seeing her again, that chapter was permanently closed. I spent the night pacing the floors of our once shared home, the images from the stable replaying like a relentless storm in my mind. Every whispered promise and tender moment we had shared now felt tainted, mocked by the reality of her betrayal. My resolve hardened with the dawn. Today, I would confront her, not just as a heartbroken husband but as a man scorned, demanding accountability. By the time my phone buzzed with her morning text, a cheery "Miss you. The horses are amazing today." My plan was set. I replied with a nonchalant, "Need to talk. Meet me at home." My message, simple and direct, masked the turbulence within. Hours later, I heard her car pull into the driveway. The sound of her footsteps approaching was like the ticking of a clock, counting down to the impending showdown. As she opened the door, her smile faltered at the sight of my grim expression. "Hey, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice laced with a nervous edge as she dropped her keys on the table. "We need to talk about the ranch," I started, my voice steady despite the shaking in my core. Her eyes widened, a flicker of guilt passing over her face before she masked it with confusion. "What about the ranch?" "Don't play dumb, Kelly." "I was there, at the stables," I said, the words like bullets. "I saw everything." The color drained from her face. I can explain," she stammered, taking a step back as if my words were a physical blow. "Explain? How do you explain betrayal?" My voice rose, a crescendo of anger and hurt. "How do you justify that? It's not what you think. It was a mistake, a horrible mistake." Her own voice cracked, desperation seeping through as she reached out to me. I recoiled from her touch. A mistake repeated is a choice, Kelly. And you chose him, over and over again. Her tears started to flow, but they sparked no sympathy from me. Please, I can fix this. We can go to counseling, anything. I shook my head, my decision unwavering. It's too late for that. I can't even look at you without seeing you with him. We're done, Kelly. I want a divorce. The word divorce hung between us like a thick fog. She sobbed, her whole body shaking. Please don't do this. Think about what you're saying. I have thought about it, all night. My lawyer will contact you with the details. Turning away, I added, you should leave now. She pleaded, her voice breaking as she reached for me again. Can we not talk about this? Please, I love you. But I was resolute, the images from the stable a barrier I couldn't breach. There's nothing left to discuss. Goodbye, Kelly. As she left, her sobs echoed through the now empty house. I stood at the window, watching her car disappear down the road. The first battle was over, but the war was just beginning. The storm within me had not abated, it had merely changed course. Now, it was directed at ensuring her betrayal would cost her as dearly as it had cost me. The following days were a blur of legal consultations and decisive actions. I was driven by a cold fury, an unyielding determination to reclaim my dignity and exact a toll for the betrayal. The ranch where the betrayal unfolded was the first battleground. With the aid of my lawyer, I started the process of freezing our joint accounts that had funded her so-called equestrian pursuits. I knew this would strike where it hurt. The ranch was not just her passion, it was her dream, and now it would become a part of her nightmare. I arrived at the ranch early, just as the sun was painting the sky in hues of orange and red. The once tranquil site now seemed like a stage set for confrontation. I wasn't wrong. As I stepped out of my car, Kelly's instructor, the other man in this sordid drama, approached me. Look, I don't know what she told you, but, he began, his tone defensive. I know enough, I cut him off, my gaze steady and unforgiving. And I suggest you find employment elsewhere. This place will likely be under new management soon. His face hardened. You can't just. I can, and I will. I didn't waver, turning my back on him to face the sunrise, signaling the conversation was over. Inside the main office, I gathered the financial documents, invoices, and receipts that detailed Kelly's investment in her equestrian adventures. As I sifted through the paperwork, Kelly burst in, her face a mask of anger and desperation. You can't do this, it's my life, she shouted, her voice echoing off the walls. It was ours, but you chose to risk it all, I responded calmly, holding up the receipts. And there are consequences. Kelly advanced towards me, her fists clenched. You're being vindictive. Why can't we just end this peacefully? Peace was an option before you betrayed me, I said, my voice icy. Now, we play by a different set of rules. She faltered, the fight draining from her as she slumped into a chair, her head in her hands. Please, think about the good times. Don't ruin me. The good times. I laughed, a hollow sound. Those memories are tainted now. As for ruining you, Kelly, you did that to yourself. With that, I left her there, amidst the ruins of her dreams, with the papers strewn about like the scattered pieces of our broken life together. Driving away, I felt the weight of the encounter but no regret. Each step was necessary, each action a stitch in the fabric of my new life without her. The house would be next. I planned to sell it, to erase every trace of our life together, turning all we had shared into just another transaction. The road ahead was clear, paved with tough decisions, but I was resolute. Kelly had awakened a part of me that was all about survival and retribution. If our love had been the dream, then the waking up was all reality, harsh and unyielding. The day of the final act dawned gray and heavy, matching the turmoil within me. The house, once filled with laughter and shared dreams, stood silent, waiting to change hands. Selling it was the last step in severing all ties with Kelly, the final cut in the cord that had bound us together. As I sorted through the last of our photographs, tearing them one by one, the doorbell rang, a sharp, intrusive sound that echoed through the hollow halls. I knew before I opened it that it would be Kelly, come to plead her case one last time. Her face, pale and drawn, confirmed my suspicions. "We need to talk," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "There's nothing left to say," I replied, blocking the doorway, unwilling to let her poison seep back into the home she had defiled. "Please, just 5 minutes." "It's not just for me," she implored, a flicker of something like hope lighting her eyes. "It's about us, about what we had." Reluctantly, I stepped aside, my curiosity piqued despite my better judgment. She walked past me, her familiar scent a ghost that flickered in the air. We sat at opposite ends of the dining table, a chasm of hurt between us. "Look, I know I messed up, horribly," she began, her hands twisting a napkin. "But there's something you need to know, something that changes everything." I raised an eyebrow, skepticism my shield. What could possibly change the facts? Her eyes met mine, holding a desperation that bordered on madness. I wasn't just having an affair. It was more complicated. The man, he threatened me. If I didn't comply, he promised to ruin my career, to hurt you. I laughed, a sharp, cynical sound. A convenient excuse. "You expect me to believe that now?" "It's the truth," she insisted, leaning forward, her intensity startling. "I have proof, emails, texts. I was going to tell you, to ask for your help, but I was scared." The room spun slightly, her words a jolt to my carefully constructed resolve. Could it be true? Had my vengeance been misguided? "Show me these messages," I demanded, my voice a mix of hope and dread. She nodded, pulling out her phone, her fingers trembling as she scrolled. The messages were damning, a trail of coercion and threats from her so-called lover. My heart sank as I read them, the implications clear and monstrous. This changes things," I admitted, my voice choked. "But why didn't you come to me sooner?" "I thought I could handle it. I didn't want to drag you into this mess. I thought I was protecting you," she sobbed, her face in her hands. But it was too late. The deeds had been done, the words hurled, and the love we had irreparably tainted. "I can't forgive this, Kelly. Maybe you had your reasons, but you chose to lie. You chose deception over trust." She reached out, her hand trembling. "Isn't there a way to—" "No," I cut her off, standing abruptly. "It's over. We're beyond repair. You should leave." As she stood, a shadow of the woman she once was, I felt a pang of something akin to regret, swiftly crushed by the weight of betrayal. "I will deal with him, with your riding instructor. He'll pay for this, I promise you." She nodded, tears streaming down her face as she turned to leave. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, a final breath of a dying bond. I watched her go, the door closing with a finality that echoed in my empty heart. My revenge would be complete, but it brought no joy, only the bitter aftertaste of a love lost to shadows and lies. The deceit had shattered us both, leaving nothing but the remnants of a life I would now have to rebuild alone.